Okay, so right about this time, I think. So the cameras are rolling. As my center camera, I'll speak into that. Hello, everybody. My name is Guy Meyer, and I'm here today with my guest, Peter Lacques. Peter is a council member from the town of Fairfax, here just west of San Rafael. Um, Peter, how long have you been on the council now?
Oh, well, first of all, thanks for having me here, Guy. About a little over 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was appointed in 2015 and ran for office that fall unopposed, and so coming up to the end of my second term now. End of my first, yeah, I guess first. Anyways.
What's the experience been like for you? I mean, is it?
It's been very, very satisfying, kind of humbling. It's a very different experience when you're trying to make a collective decision for a town of 9,000 people, and yeah, it's been very rewarding. Grappling with some difficult issues, but I've enjoyed it. Enjoy hearing from a lot of different viewpoints, and it's been a pretty positive experience. But there's some adversity and no lack of controversy sometimes.
Is it painful when you dealing with people that you sort of know come in who are? I think probably it's probably an obvious question, but when you're dealing with emotions and people who disagree with you or are adamant about issues, and you're
for some reason Fairfax has had a history of rather contentious meetings. We did my predecessors instituted a code of civility when I was mayor. I tried to enforce that very much. I try to get people to focus on the issues and the facts and not try to disparage people. Some people come in, they're very angry. You still have to listen to their viewpoints, and sometimes I find myself having to. It just makes it harder to take in a viewpoint when it's coming from someone that's really vitriolic or angry, but I sort of see my job as even trying to take in those viewpoints, even when people are angry and upset, and sometimes they have very valid things to say. And it makes for a better decision-making process. But, we could all use a little less kind of vitriol. Passion's okay. I don't mind passion. But personalizing things, making ad hominem attacks, that's not helpful. It just makes it more unpleasant for everyone. And when I was mayor, I chaired the meetings. I tried to set a tone of civility and respect for people. And, it just makes for a better process when people can focus on the issues, and you can have strong disagreements about issues, but just be more respectful. And America's kind of becoming a little more polarized in the last few years with the rise of social media and
I mean, people
Trump and all that.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of nerves or a lot of anxiety, I would say, among the general population. Everybody, I think, is under a lot of pressure dealing with it in so many different levels, whether whichever side of the coin one feels like, or if the 180 or 360 degrees of political perspective, whatever you are, there's just you just don't know. It does seem like everybody's under a lot of pressure. Tell me about the year of mayor. Is the year that you serve as mayor?
Right. We rotate the mayorship for a year, and it's unlike some cities like San Rafael has a separately elected mayoral office. It's another vote on the council, but you sort of serve as a chairperson for the meetings and setting the agenda and a few other.
It's an issue for another day. I've been told there's over 400 towns in California that basically rotate mayorship, and I've often wondered if the towns themselves are, even though there might seem like a point where it's more beneficial to have this kind of shared experience of the mayor, sometimes it seems like maybe there would be a place where an actual person who was at the office who expressed
Sure.
a
And
sense
some-
of direction that the people could get behind and have a sense of where the buck stopped might be of value.
Yeah, and that's a
big issue.
political decision. It depends
Right.
on how the city's organized, its charter, and so forth. And in a larger city, the mayor almost serves like, the president, like an executive. In a small town like Fairfax, and most of the towns in Marin, really we sort of act like a board of directdirectors for the town rather than, a mayor that heads the staff that, directs things. And so, yeah, so that's why we don't have that kind of a model, executive model for the mayorship.
And do you have much of a term left in your serving this time?
No, I have a few more months. We have an election.
Oh, really? There'll
Yeah,
be another
November.
election?
Yeah.
Do you plan to be back there on the ballot? And
yeah.
Go for another round?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. All right. Now, let me bring up, I guess we'll start locally
Sure.
here with Fairfax. And it just so happens, just yesterday, it came to my attention when we were already talking about scheduling this meeting, where a item of some controversy, apparently enough for the local newspaper to put an editorial. What says it's about? Tell me, I'll give you a little background on the subject. It was a subdivision in Fairfax. They say Marinda. Is this the one over by the St. Rita's Church? Would that be that Marinda?
Yeah, it's called Marinda Heights, or the Wall property. It's about 99 acres. It's been vacant land for many, many years, and it was recently purchased by a group of investors, and they have an application in to develop, I think it's 10 parcels on there. And yeah, so that's the history of it. And so I just heard about it last week that the developers are interested in trying to sell one of the parcels.
How many parcels are there?
I think there's 10 altogether.
10 parcels, and then 99 acres total, so there are about 10-acre parcels or approximately, or something like that?
Yeah. So anyway, so that they presented an offer to sell us one of their parcels for $500,000. And heard very little information about it. My first take is I think it's it just seems really overpriced. I did the math, and it's about 3.5 times of what they paid for the land a few years ago, raw, undeveloped land. My initial take is, look, we don't know enough about this to entertain any kind of an intelligent offer. It seems to me really overpriced for what it is, and so I didn't think it was a good idea to, jump at buying this piece of property, and I think it makes sense to wait and see what the EIR says about the whole that particular property too, and it's hard to know the value of a piece of land like that.
Do you think it's all developable? That this owner who has plans to develop it?
I don't know. I haven't seen. I haven't looked at the actual application. I understand it's complete. Haven't looked at the EIR, and I don't want to judge a project. So it's before us, and it also makes it a little more difficult to try to assess the value of a project when. Or a piece of a parcel that might be part of a project that you're also deliberating on. So that makes me a little uncomfortable trying to entertain at this point, whether or not it makes sense to buy it and at what price. And I think we'll, if we learn more information, maybe, but, as far as making a decision today, we pass. It doesn't foreclose. Looking at it later on when we have more information. One of the people spearheading this, David Weinsoff, former council member, the property is right next to his, so I could understand why he would be very
Upset
interested in.
or
Yeah,
wishing to preserve it.
yeah, preserve it as open space. I understand that. I don't know if that's the best thing for the town to do, and so before spending that kind of money, I want to be a little bit more informed and not feel pressured to,
Well,
buy some piece of land that
Yeah.
I don't know what it's worth, but it seems like that initial offer just seems really, really
is this the first?
really high.
Yeah.
So and yeah, that's about all I know about it.
Was this the first kind of? Has there been more in the newspaper prior to this editorial suddenly showing
No,
up? And so it's
you
sort of
know,
like
the
not on
IJ
anybody's radar, is it?
Well, it was on the radar of, I think we had about 50 or 60 people that signed it. And I can understand people like open space.
Right.
Whether it's a good decision, at what price, those are things that we just need more information. It's not like, no, we're never going to entertain an open space purchase. It's like, they asked me, you want to buy this land for $500,000? I'm conservative with spending our taxpayers' money. My initial response is no, but let's look at it later.
Yeah, well, it's just interesting in terms of the meeting with the council and this the representative of the development team, I suppose.
We didn't meet with him.
No.
No, what we did was we had a deliberation amongst ourselves.
Oh, okay.
There's a process in the government code to deliberate about purchases of land, and I'm not speaking about anything we discussed. That was my take before any kind of meeting and after any kind of meeting.
So it's becoming clearer in my mind as to what was going on, because there was Fairfax Council should explain land decisions, so I think we're getting some kind of an explanation.
And we might. We might have a public meeting on that. They did a petition, so we have a process where citizens can petition to have an item discussed by the town council. So I'm happy to discuss it
Right.
at a town council meeting.
And frequently, it seems that a part of the strategy of developers, people who are in the process of that's their quote livelihood. Slightly, I'm into protecting as much land as humanly possible against development. That they will offer some percentage and as a kind of a bargaining chip in lieu of here's our development plan, but we can give you X amount of open space. It seems like a common form of negotiation for people.
I don't want to speculate on
Right.
that because I haven't looked at the project in depth, and I don't know if that's their motive.
Okay.
It's not my motive to
right.
bargain land for
All right.
development concessions. I look at it as, is this a good purchase in and of itself? I kind of
Okay.
segregate it out from that process.
Right.
And my initial blush is,
Okay.
we'll pass for now.
Let's go on to another subject.
Sure.
Local subject. The Parkade seems to be done, or almost done. Is it done?
There's a few minor things that need to be done still. I think
It's open.
Yeah, it's open for
the
business.
public
Plenty
and
of parking.
parking, yeah.
And there's probably a few minor details to be done still.
Tell me about the tree situation. I understand that there was a little bit of pushback on that some of the residents had to speak up in terms of making sure that some of the trees that existed were not replaced with new trees, whatever.
What happened?
What happened?
We it was a long process to go through the planning process, and we had a series of town workshops about what to do about the town center element. And the general consensus was, don't do anything. Before we were going to spend money on this Parkade project, we're looking at doing possibly entertaining some ideas that other people had brought about modifying the town center. Overwhelming, public consensus was, don't
Don't
change
mess with it?
anything, and I'm okay with that. You know, it's the circulation in downtown Fairfax is pretty dysfunctional with those weird intersections of Broadway. But I think that's probably the best dysfunction we can hope for, given just the confluence of all the streets. So anyways, we went through that process. We had a grant that was going to expire, so we were able to, just under the wire, get the project approved, you know, and funded. And then the contractor insisted that they had to start right away. And I wanted to delay it and give people a little bit more notice. But no, they said they had to move on it right away. We had an arborist do a report before the project to look at, you know, he made some recommendations to remove some of the trees that were crowding other trees, redwoods and so forth. And then he did another inspection, and he found that there were about four more trees that had to be removed because they were at risk of falling. They were very seriously diseased and were very compromised. And he had actually recommended removing several others. But, you know, we listened to the public comment. People really wanted to leave as many trees in place as possible. So, so we did that, and our tree committee is making recommendations for replacement trees to plant. So it was unfortunate. I mean, it was a big surprise, but the trees that were diseased and needed to be removed, they're liquid amber trees. They're considered nuisance trees under our ordinance. They've been considered nuisance trees for many, many years. They uplift sidewalks, and they cause a lot of kind of infrastructure damage. They're very prone to disease if they aren't pruned well. These trees were pruned very poorly.
I saw, I think, 3 new plantings.
Right.
Young trees. Were these replacements of what was something already, a tree already is there?
Yeah.
Is there a net gain of a tree, or it's pretty much just where?
That's a good question. I think it's about the same amount of trees. I think one of the trees needed to be removed because it was and won't be replaced because it was interfering with one of the ramps or stairways. I'm not entirely sure about that though.
Well,
but it caused a lot.
And you have a tree committee, so there should be somebody, I think, advocating for an additional, more trees as opposed to less, and I think that's a good start for any of our communities to find, or supermarkets or anybody with a major parking lot to maybe put one parking space toward a tree and put bike parking under the tree or something.
Well, in reconfiguring the Parkade, we did take a lot of steps to improve the areas for the trees. We may have lost a parking space or two because of making more areas to protect the trees. So,
And there will be a bus shelter built
along
St. Francis Street?
Well, we're looking at that. We're looking at my other council members, John Reed and Barbara Kohler, have a subcommittee, and they're going to be looking at. We're actually going to probably have some volunteers design and help build a replacement bus shelter, and hopefully something along the lines of what was there before.
I think that'd be very welcome to see something
and the
out of natural material, and it fits with the character of
Sure.
the town, and good shelter in the summer and the winter. And
we looked at trying to preserve that one, but it was just too termite ridden to be salvageable. So.
Yeah. Now the marijuana issue, it seems like a particularly gnarly subject there. As I was watching a little bit of the proceedings that were on the TV from maybe a week or so ago.
It's very very emotionally charged. It's a little. It's in some ways it's very simple. In some ways it's fairly complex. Where we're headed is to allow personal cultivation of up to 6 plants, a few more if you have a doctor's note or whatever. And I was really surprised at the intense opposition to having any kind of storefront sales, recreational storefront sales. I've gotten more emails on that than any other subject, probably between 200 to 300 emails, running about 4 to 1, maybe even 5 to 1, against allowing recreational marijuana sales, which surprised me. I've kind of, I haven't fully decided, but the thing that struck me is that the big concern for not having recreational marijuana is youth access, and I appreciate that. And I agree with those concerns. Marijuana is really, really strong these days. It's a lot stronger. You know, I started smoking pot when I was in high school, and it's a whole other animal. And I've known several young people that have had, you know, really bad reactions to marijuana. So I understand that sentiment from the parents. I disagree, though, that merely having a recreational store that says 21 only to purchase is going to make young people smoke marijuana or influence them towards that. But the one irony is that a lot of people supported the medicinal marijuana continuing. But you know, there's a kind of a anomaly in the law in that the age to buy medical marijuana is 18 versus 21 for recreational. So I think if you're really concerned about youth access, having access to 18-year-olds will mean that, you know, younger people will get access to that. Now, I experienced that when I lived in Texas. I moved there my senior year of high school. Drinking age was 18, and that meant that freshmen had
I went to college
access to, you know, Jack Daniels high school freshmen. So,
wait a minute, not high school freshmen, college freshmen.
No, high school freshmen, because they had older brothers that would
well.
buy, and friends that would buy them, you know, liquor. And so, you know, if you really want to reduce youth access, having medical in town makes it a lot easier for younger people. So that's just one of the anomalies and complexities.
There are a number of anomalies and complexities about the whole situation, really.
And ultimately, what people seem to be happy with, regardless of whether you're, you know, it's politically acceptable, is deliveries, and that's okay. I mean, if we have deliveries, people don't seem to have any problem with that. You know, I was a little surprised, but I'm, you know, that's one issue where I'm willing to listen to, you know, kind of what the majority of people are wanting. I even though I disagree, I don't think a recreational storefront will, you know, cause the corruption of our youth. There's other reasons to maybe not have being the only store in Marin might mean that there's a whole lot of extra traffic coming into town. You know, so weighing it as, is this a business that we want in our town? You know, there's pros and cons on that aspect of things, but you know, the medical model is going away because you know, the recreational is just so much more convenient for people to buy. So the delivery model seems to be acceptable to everyone.
It just seems like the issues of alcoholism and alcohol. I mean, going back, if I could, you know, go back 30 years ago, I'm looking at the time too. I think we're fine.
Okay.
That it just always seemed to me that it could be wherever you sell alcohol, your liquor store. You have to be 21. Produce your ID. Have a little case where, you know, it's under the keep. I just haven't quite got, except that it all somehow becomes a grander money-making enterprise, either for entrepreneurs who get, quote, a dispensary, and or the government who can has, this golden gleam of lots of dollars of taxes coming in.
Well, the tax promise hasn't borne out that well. I mean, it's not as lucrative as a tax revenue as people have hoped. At least that's,
Well,
that's what I've been told.
everything is off to a shaky start from what I
Yeah,
understand.
I mean,
in
it's
California.
kind of the Wild West,
Mm.
and you know, in a in a couple of years, it might make sense to look at that again. And I haven't fully decided either. It's again, conceptually, I don't think recreational marijuana stores are just going to corrupt kids. It's actually more restrictive to youth access than medical, but it's a lot of people just are really opposed to that, which surprised me.
It's almost like a what would you say? It's sort of a straight-laced reaction that it surprises a lot of us in terms of just a vision. I think a lot of concern for children, and I think probably justifiably, but it just seems like it's over the top. I think the young people, those who have that notion, will find a way of getting it. A friend of mine who's saying that psilocybin's going to be legalized in Colorado, and if only we can just eliminate the meth and everything else, will be a wonderful world. But it does seem like in our culture we've got some health issues, mental health issues, as to what is really the roots of young people wanting to mess up their minds and not, and maybe
right.
There's
hazards.
cultural stuff.
There's hazards in any kind of activity. And, it's kind of like sex. I mean, people are you can't restrict sex. People are going to have problems with sex and relationships and so forth. People are going to, and so it's hard to develop a real rational viewpoint of, okay, well, how do you prevent the harm, especially to young people? And and we have an age of consent, which is a real hard and fast rule. And yeah, with any kind of drug use, there's going to be people that are injured by it. And so I'm a firm believer, though, in decriminalizing drugs. And why don't whatever harms there are from drugs, criminalizing them will just make it worse, I think. And countries that do decriminalize their drugs, ironically, tend to have a lot less problems with addiction and so forth. But making marijuana legal and readily accessible, there's going to be more people that are negatively impacted because there just will be, and that's that's inevitable. I mean, but the option to criminalize it and so forth. Obviously, we tried that for almost 100 years, and that didn't work. So
where is that my alarm? Yes. We got it's an alarm. We got the 2-minute exception mark. What do the referees say at the end of regulation time? We've got injury time or something. Okay. Would you say that, in your own perspective, when I look at the world of left and right, and originally I was thinking of having a conversation that might embrace some of the bigger issues of our time and really get in there. But as you kind of try to navigate your way, and now you're a councilman and you have this role in our community of what is too much government, what is the balance? Is there some element that can define, if there was I believe there is, sort of an ethical standard of people who believe strongly in government, people who believe strongly against too much government? Do you see that kind of balance that you try to work with in your life?
I think that's a false dichotomy. I think there's good government and useful government and government that helps people and is beneficial to people. And then there's, government like we have in the United States, which is really kind of set up for to serve the economic elites and at the expense of everyone else. That's my 30-second take on it. Really, it's about the economic interests that control government, especially at the national level. And we have an oligarchy at the national level. It fails to deliver basic services that people need, so they become very upset with it and angry with it, and that kind of feeds into a cycle for this kind of rhetoric of, oh, we have too much government. Well, if government did at the national level, especially, or at the state level, serve people, if we had things like free college and free health insurance, and adequate consumer protections and so forth, I think people would have a much better view of government. But what we're given is such a dysfunctional, especially at that national level, that people are.
Peter, we're going to re-engage our conversation again at a future time, I hope. We'll put another 30 minutes in toward just an exploration about what it is in terms of the wealth controlling this world, and what power do the people have, and on what level are we going to have to trust people to be able to make some decisions on their own, and what is the whole. Oh, I'm opening the door for you for another visit.
Okay,
and I want to thank you
you
for being
thank
here
you, Guy.
today. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise.
Okay, cheers. Take care.
All righty.
All right, folks, take care and thank you. Hello, everybody. I want to welcome everyone to another show of California Times. My name is Guy Meyer, and my guest today is Kim Elzen, who I have recently met hitchhiking out of the Forest Knolls Valley. She's rescued me, and we've had some conversation about some of her experiences in her career. And Kim, I'm coming away from our your modest little lift out of the valley, thinking that you were a dog whisperer. Is this, among other things, what you do, or how would you describe this?
It's what people tell me I do.
Uh-huh.
I would never have come up with it. I just relate very easily to dogs, have always done so. Like I said yesterday, I raised myself in a dog basket. My mother bred Riesenschnauzers.
What type of dog are these?
Schnauzer?
The Schnauzer? Schnauzers?
You know, with sort of the square little heads. Well, you have those in big. It's called the Riesen, giant Schnauzers. You have them, they're this high. So we had as long as I can remember, those first years, we had 5 or 6 of them in our garage growing up with Mom.
Is this in Germany?
In Holland.
In Holland.
I'm Dutch.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
And dogs are so much easier to relate to. In the first place, they don't talk. So, you can just be with them. You don't have to think about what they mean, whether they might mean something different than what they're saying, because they don't. They always mean what they are.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that delightful and so restful to be with.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's a whole different level sometimes when we're talking to a human being. Well, of course, there's a different level, but are we do we get on guard more or less, or we sometimes are. Certainly, we can't just. It's just not the same.
You have to interpret human beings, right? You have to. I always have the impression that words are very often, more of a screen than actually an explanation of what is meant. It's what's going on behind the words that is often what is real, as far as I can see, that is.
Right.
But then I'm half a dog, so I'm not really good at words.
You're half a dog, did I hear you
Well,
say?
that's how I feel, yeah. People tell me I'm a golden retriever.
You like that? Does
Oh,
that feel like it
yeah.
fits you?
What's there not to
That
like
kind
about
of-
a golden retriever?
I don't know. Very little to possibly not like
Right,
about it. So
right.
that would probably be a
They
jewel of a pooch to like.
yeah, no,
You
maybe
know.
they're over-enthusiastic.
Yeah. I have fond memories of mongrels in general from my childhood and our pet. That
They're the best, of course.
you know, but.
And the healthiest.
When you let's see. I've been feeling like I've been in the doghouse spiritually, emotionally a little bit lately, and I feel like it was like hard to roll out of bed today, and like the world, the pressure of things, and even this little show is sort of sometimes sort of an element of what seems like outsized ego, or what am I trying to, you know, what's the point, or where am I getting with this, and so can you approach a human being like you might a dog? And tell me, how do you approach your dogs? Actually, let's leave Guy alone for a little bit and go into your dogs. We can come back to me.
I think I do approach, and it's a strange question, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but I think I do approach human beings like dogs.
Mm.
I think I do.
Mm.
Well, I don't know where that goes. I have no clue where that goes.
Well,
But I'm pretty immediate in my responses.
mm-hmm.
I find it very hard to I'm not going to say fake, because that's not what I mean, but to sort of use tactics. Tactics are totally out of my scope. I have no clue about them, and so they don't work on me either.
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing that if people try to use tactics on me, I'm just going like, huh?
Yeah.
Clueless. Doesn't work.
Mm.
And I guess I'm very direct.
Mm.
With my dogs, I'm definitely, there's no use, there's no sense in doing anything, covering anything up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm with dogs so much,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just my approach too. I don't know whether it's actually about dogs, because I do it when I'm without dogs as well. There's months that I'm without dogs when I'm traveling or whatever. But I do that with people too. I'm very direct. And without getting into the whole cultural thing here, maybe, I don't know whether you want to do that or not, but in Holland, people are way more direct than you people here.
Really?
Oh,
California people then?
oh, especially, I'm told it's especially California people, but this is my only
Yeah.
experience of the US. This is all about being nice. And I understand the background of that. I understand the
What
historical.
did you just say?
cultural-
Maybe nice? Or
No, being nice.
being nice?
Being nice. And being nice meaning that's not really being nice, that's
Right.
playing nice.
Or, yeah, being, what can you say? Just
Trying to
not challenge anything,
Right.
which is,
Right. Do not challenge.
yeah.
Do not challenge. Well, that's not who I am. I do challenge. I do challenge. Why not? Where I come from, there's no problem with that. You can challenge, and people will take you up on it, or say, we don't have the time or not the inclination to go there with you. That's fine too. But it's more straightforward.
Think so?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think so. Yeah. And when I first came here, that was a big adjustment for me. Wherever I went, and when I was talking to people, they'd sort of get this rigid smile on their face and walk slowly backwards away from me to, and I would have no clue what I was doing wrong.
But you were giving them some kind of signal that somehow you were allowing some honesty to
Yeah.
confront them
Because I have no reason not to.
Well, they may have been.
Threatened.
Well, I guess it's really hard to speak in terms of an abstract situation when you've got so many situations that you've come across in your life, and each one probably has its own uniqueness. But it is kind of intriguing to me, these kind of stressful times of politically that we hear in the U.S., where a political conversation, shall we say, has to be done so tenuously. You have to sort of make sure you're feeling that you're on the same wavelength. Mm-hmm. Dare you say something and cause an emotional outbreak, really, if it doesn't quite meet with another person's point of view. Yeah. I think we're all actually, even if you think you find somebody who you agree with, that with a little conversation you'll find that you probably don't, I mean, it's very hard to find human beings who, really agree. When you start, what do you think? I mean,
It's a funny question.
Funny?
I think most human beings would agree on basics.
Mm.
Apart from, I think we all share this common denominator of humanity, and then apart from that, we come from a different DNA background or cultural background or historical background or whatever. Mm-hmm. So those are the differences. Mm-hmm. But I think we all want the same things. We all desire the same things. We all want ALA, attention, love, and affection. We all want that. And not just human beings. I think that's what we have in common with dogs.
Is that a dog phrase? Is that a dog terminology?
No.
Have I not heard of that from some psychology?
No, it's a phrase that I've just done. I don't know whether I'm supposed to say this, but I've just done 9 days, the intensive in Ojai with Byron Katie, the school of Byron Katie.
Not familiar with the name is vaguely familiar, but tell me that was, in a nutshell, what that was about.
It's about becoming aware of your true nature, what you really are beyond the veils of, I need my life to be like this. It's about becoming real. Like, okay, you need this or that, but you don't have it. In my dictionary, that means you don't need it because you don't have it, and you're existing quite fine, right? Aren't you? You're just good as you are. You're just sitting there. You're just great. Mm-hmm. So you don't really need it. You might think so, but it's not true. What makes you think so? And attention, love, and affection are behind all those needs and resistance, the resistance that people have to life.
That is interesting. It seems to strike a chord of reality or honesty there in terms of how does that manifest in terms of attention, love, affection? We all get, hopefully, some of that. And yet in our world, which may have for many of us too much solitude for something, we might feel separated from that. Are human beings always, is there kind of an unquenchable thing? Is there something where they have to get that they're full as opposed to, like this sense of acceptance or that you are full?
I think as long as we are not truly realizing our true nature, which is being beyond the personality, as long as we don't truly, you can have it in your head like, oh yes, I know I have a soul and I'm a spirit or whatever, and all that, but that's just mind, and that can be just wishful thinking. For most people, that is just wishful thinking, because the fear of death, which we don't share with dogs, the fear of death is behind all our cravings. As far as I can see, if you know that this life is inexorably going to, and I'm 61, so I'm way over half. So maybe I have 20 years left, maybe 30 if I'm a very lucky girl, and then that'll be that. That gets scary. And if you don't have a partner, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm going to be alone when I get old, and my life is not working out, and I'm a failure, and I haven't got it made. I don't have enough money. I'm not safe. And what if I feel ill? I mean, yeah, no. If you're afraid of that kind of stuff here in America, that's scary. What if you fall ill? Yes, all those things. If you don't fully realize that it doesn't really matter, that is just the persona and the projection of the light behind it being what you are, then that will go on until your deathbed and beyond, I'm afraid. That's what I'm afraid of, but I can't be sure about that.
For this dog, in terms of the experience of death. Now, last week I spoke to an environmentalist who believed that the human race was basically on the verge of being extinct. And it might be true, perhaps, right? I mean, it's hard to know. It's a big thing. And you spoke in terms of that, the fear of death as being almost, you're suggesting a sort of a primary fear of in humanity, perhaps when they get a certain age. Really?
Every other fear, yeah.
Do you think so?
That's what I think, yeah. No, maybe it's not true.
I don't know. No, I don't. I ponder it too because I've into my 6th decade as well and rapidly getting through it, and I don't think I think about the fear of death. I feel like that it's more of a. If fears get in there, it's the fear of my own ineffectuality with life, my own inability to engage. The sort of the critical voice in my own mind that is not satisfied with even, let's just say, the general social milieu, this world that we are in. I guess that would be maybe death is the ultimate because you don't think you're effectual and that your time is running up, which kind of reminds me of conversations with my dad who passed away about 10 years ago, and he also was a very external oriented person driving at his visions and philosophies, and felt some frustrations in his old age too that he wasn't able to enlist humanity into his idealistic vision. And I'm to some degree, even though I have not followed his notions of what the perfect idealistic vision might be, I feel like I kind of repeat part of his life patterns. But it's interesting to get to a point of to being a happy dog again, with enough of that ALA, and I guess there's, for the most part, really, the healing or the healthy part of being the happy dog or whatever is a creature very alive in the present, right? I mean, that's all there is. The dog is not pondering, anything beyond the potential for happiness or affection or just, you would think, right?
No.
Unless it's been severely maltreated.
when you come down to it,
Hmm.
you know, the fear, no matter what fear you're talking about, it's always about past. You
Mm.
haven't been ineffectual
Mm.
enough,
Mm.
or future,
Mm.
you're not going to be
Mm.
effectual enough.
Mm.
Because right now you're being totally effectual, right? You're here, sitting here, doing what you're doing, loving what you're doing, right? That's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you being ineffectual right here, right now? If I may ask you a question.
Well, that's a good question, and I feel like my this body of mine. I feel like I'm like somebody who vows to turn over a new leaf, and I will be.
Future.
I know.
Here,
I
now.
know. I woke up exhausted. It took me just hours to finally mobilize myself out of, once again, it seems like a kind of a cloud of, gray consciousness that's, despite the beautiful world, I'm just sleep deprived and stressed, and there's a various stuff that's just physical human discomfort.
Okay.
And it's annoying and it's
Is that
frustrating.
Right now? Is that true right now? You're in physical distress right now?
Well, yes, a little bit. True. It is. And it's okay. It is.
You look perfectly fine to me.
Well, thank you. And it's a funny thing because I've had many people tell me, well, I go through life. I can go through life feeling like I'm being, and yet people will go, God, you're fine. And the external perspective.
The only thing I can think of that would not be fine right now is your thoughts about it.
Oh, you're good. That's what. Exactly right. Of course.
Without your thoughts, you're perfectly fine as you are.
I know. It's interesting. It's fascinating.
That's all that's wrong with us.
And it's a funny thing. I work as a supermarket checker frequently, though my doghouse situation is somewhat connected to my work as well, because I find that I get too sociable with people, and that I've not been good. I didn't really want to be a checker. I just wanted to clink bottles in the wine department. But this is sort of the backstory. But I've made a few mistakes with customers that have put the company in a little bit of a bind. And but being up front, no matter if I'm tired or not, with lots of people, I lose my self-consciousness if I'm lucky, not every day, but I can lose that sense of things being not right, or I can feel like that things are so full that it overcomes any issues of my, ongoing lack of sleep or anything else, because I get alive with people, or fired up in the moment, which is great.
So then you
But
So then you lose your need to control the situation.
Yeah.
Which has to do with thought.
Yeah. Well, you're right. You're right, and that's sort of I guess really that's sort of maybe where so many of my enlightened friends, which I think is I think the world has grains of it. I don't want to separate the world off in
big word.
But the same message comes from various perspectives, from various eyes
dislike
and.
That word. Why don't we?
Tell me.
I just dislike suffering. I'm just like everybody else. I just dislike suffering. So I do my damnedest.
Yeah.
To
extricate yourself.
To extricate.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
I don't like pain.
Yeah.
I'm very strange that way.
Yeah. No, of course you're not. It's
So
silly, and
all.
it's silly.
And my thinking causes me stress and pain.
Yeah.
So, and I don't need to think in so many situations.
Yeah.
I think my thinking is about maybe 30% of what it used to be.
Mm.
And my life is so much easier.
Is that
I
something?
have so much fewer problems.
Mm.
I'm still living in the same place.
Mm.
I'm still on about the same amount of money, or even a little less actually.
Mm.
But I have no problems anymore. I used to lay awake at night going like, oh my God, how's it gonna go? How am I gonna survive? I'm not gonna make it.
Mm.
Oh no.
Mm.
I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm happy as a clam.
That's
Yeah.
that's great, and that's beautiful, and that's simple, and
It has to be very simple for me.
yeah, and it should be that simple.
Yeah.
I know.
Absolutely. It can't be,
And I know.
complicated.
And I'm not going to grind right now my thoughts, which is tempted immediately
Oh.
to grind
Well, you
and say, well, why
grind-
isn't it simple for me?
grind
Blah,
away.
blah, blah. But of course, you know, it is,
If you're happy.
dare I say, I mean, the is what it is concept of existence has a certain,
Here, look. It's this. It's loving what is.
loving what is.
Loving what is.
Mm.
It's not only is what it is, you can just love what it is.
And that does happen.
It does happen, yes.
And we all have
If
hearts.
you're determined.
If we know that it is what it is, if we can accept that, and when we do,
Well, what does it give you not to accept that?
Hmm?
What does it give you when you don't accept what is?
nothing.
that give you?
Hold on to pain, I guess.
Right,
Yeah.
that's exactly right.
Mm.
It gives you pain.
Mm.
Well, I may be simple, but I'm not stupid.
Mm.
I don't hold on to a hot coal if I don't have
Mm.
to.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know, but and I'm just dwelling on, Guy, why are you not sleeping at night?
Yeah,
You know,
that's your
Guy,
mind playing tricks
you
with
know,
you.
why, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there are things that we all do. We all, and some of us are slower than others on this path of grasping, you know, just knowing how to paddle our own little boat gently down the stream if we
There must
could.
be something in it for you.
Yeah, and but what's the word? We measure and we respond, right? Hopefully,
Yeah,
to
or
to
react.
react
Or react.
or move. You know.
You know, if we blindly react,
Mm.
we react from personality and from learned
Mm.
behavioral patterns
Mm.
that will never change
Mm.
if we don't examine them. If we don't inquire into them, they will never change. They will just get deeper and deeper and deeper.
Right.
And as people get older, you see that too. They
Mm.
get more stuck, more rigid, more, I know how it is, I know the world,
Mm.
and they're not happy with it,
Mm.
but that's what they know.
Mm.
That doesn't have to be.
No,
It really doesn't have to be.
it's sort of
Letting go is a fantastic thing that we can learn from dogs. Today, I saw a dog die who has been an amazing dog for her whole life, as long as I knew her, and she let go with such grace and elegance.
mm.
That is just out of this world. You know, if people could do that, you'd definitely say, "Wow, that's an enlightened being who just went." Yeah.
How would you define what you saw there to make it when
It's very simple. They don't resist.
mm,
She held on as long as she could for her